Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Crystal Digital Realm. Welcome back to Live at Lunch. Live at Lunch, we're currently reading the book Tools of Titans, and we're covering the chapter with, let me see here. We're covering the chapter with Phil Libin. That's L-I-B-I-N. Phil Libin. We're covering the chapter with Phil Libin. Really quick, before we hop into it, let's go over some quick Digital Realm housekeeping news. So we just recorded the videos for the How to Stream Live course, so that's going to be available soon for the Digital Realm community. So make sure you get your access to the Digital Realm community, to the course library, by going to digitalrem.com and getting the access by signing up for a membership. The membership is free, so you have no excuse not to sign up. So you get your access like that. Boom. Yesterday was a busy day. We made 3 videos in a row, literally three videos in a row, and it was a busy day. But with that being said, we were able to start to create some processes, so we'll be able to turn these videos out a lot faster. Currently, I am doing Live at Lunch mainly on IG, but we have set up the process of doing our Live at Lunch and posting them also to digitalrem.com, so you can go back and watch them later on. So we will be posting the Live at Lunch and saving them to digitalrem.com as well. So you won't have to just necessarily go to my IGTV stories to see the Live at Lunch. So boom, that's what we set up for yesterday. Yeah, pretty much that's what we set up for yesterday. So let's just hop right into this, right? Phil Libin. He's the executive chairman in Evernote, right? Evernote is roughly 150 million users. He's a managing director at General Catalyst, a venture capital firm, who invested in companies like Airbnb, Snapchat, Stripe, Warby Parker, companies like that, right? So he's in the investor world, it seems like. Boom. So if you probably noticed, like, I'm not super turned up today, like before. We about to hop right into it though. I'm not super turned up today like before. Definitely got been trying to practice on being better about slowing down, and got some advice from multiple people that I should slow down a little bit. Mainly why I even get turned up, because when all these lights come on, I kind of get turned up, and then really I want to wrap all of this content into the shortest amount of time as possible, because I don't want you on this live for 3 or 4 hours, because I talk like I'm talking now, like I talk regular. Everybody who knows me personally and has spoken with me personally knows that I'm more laid back when I talk. So you get more of the regular version right here, right? So let's just hop right into it. Who's the first person? Tim Ferriss asked Phil Libin, who's the first person who comes to mind when you think of the word successful? And then Phil says, I guess I really don't think of people as successful. Tons of people deserve to be successful because they're super smart or interesting and hardworking, but they just haven't had the luck. Now, with that being said, that's his reply. With that being said, I agree with him on this. Like, I don't think anybody's more successful or more smart or anything than anybody else. We're kind of going back to our Live at Lunch yesterday, kind of going back to that. The main thing that separates people is curiosity, remaining curious. As long as you remain curious, you're going to continue to dig for information and continue to stay a student in that subject. And as long as you stay a student at that subject, you become more advanced and more I'm just keep the word advanced, but you'll become more advanced in that subject. So you'll be well versed at the end of the day. You'll be well versed in that subject. So when opportunities present themselves and you're ready, you're already prepared. In comparison to somebody who's, perceived as super smart or super interesting or works hard, they're working hard or, super smart, super interesting, dependent upon their talent. They're super smart or super interesting, but when that opportunity presents themselves, they haven't put in as much work as somebody who's just super curious about a subject. Somebody who's super curious is going to put that 10,000 hours in or whatever, however many hours in somebody who's just working hard, relying on their talent and things like that, they're just going to rely on that, not necessarily become a student of what they're trying to do. So at the end of the day, remain curious. At the end of the day, really just remain curious in whatever subject matter you're interested in. Remain a student, remain curious, and that's going to take you even further. That's going to make you work even harder, and it wouldn't even feel like work because you're just curious. You're going to work even harder, retain even more information because you want to know more. So boom, and then when those opportunities present themselves and somebody's like, does somebody know how to do this? Boom, you can raise your hand like, I know how to do that, and I did it here, and here, and there. So I can do it for you too, you know? So that's how we're gonna do that. All right, let's go on to the next part. All right, the rule of 3 and 10. So I highlighted a lot in this chapter, so it's gonna be a lot of reading, and then I'm gonna just give you a summary on the back end, right? The rule of 3 and 10. This effectively means that every single thing in your company breaks every time you roughly triple in size. He said when you're just one person, everything kind of works. You sort of figure it out. And then at some point, you have 3 people. And now things are kind of different. Making decisions and everything with 3 people is different. But you adjust to that. Then you're fine for a while. You get to 10 people and everything kind of breaks again. You figure that out. And then you get to 30 people and everything is different. And then you get to 100 and then 300 and then 1,000. My hypothesis is that everything breaks at roughly these points, 3 and 10, multiples of 3 and powers of 10. And by everything, it means everything. How you handle payroll, how you schedule meetings, what kind of communication you use, how you do budgeting, who actually makes decisions. Every implicit and explicit part of the company just changes significantly when it triples. His insight is that a lot of companies get into trouble because of this. When you're a quickly growing startup, you get into huge trouble because you blow right through a few of these triplings without really realizing it. So you blow through a few of these triplings without really realizing it. And then you turn around and you realize we're at 400 people now, but some of our processes and systems we set in place when we were just 30 should have been reinvented, should have been updated. So you should constantly perpetually be thinking about how to reinvent yourself and how to treat the culture. So at the end of the day, it was a lot to read, but at the end of the day, he's saying like when you have a company, and you know, first it starts off with you, and you creating all your processes, you're doing everything, and then you move to hire a virtual assistant or some type of assistance, and processes change. Like, okay, what are they gonna do? What part of the process are they gonna take over? So you have to reinvent the whole structure of the business of the company, because now you have to fit these 2 extra people into the process, right? Or 3 extra people, whatever. But fit these people into the process. Then everything will ride more smoothly. Like, okay, they're gonna manage this, they're gonna manage that. Now you just have to think, well, why does it happen at 30, like every 3s? Because then you might have 3 people, you hire 3 people, and then you set them 3 people up as far as when y'all first start off, like they're running that part of the organization, they're doing that part. But then when you start to hire more people, so you hire 10 people, now they have to delegate. They become managers, and then they delegate the task to their team. Well, you have to set up process for that, and then there's just a trickle effect. So it's going to essentially, once you get to 30, then you get to 90, then you get to what, 270. Yeah, you just use every dividend of 3. Like pretty much you can expect this. So again, and that's just changing processes, changing all kinds of things. So you just constantly just have to stay on the swivel as far as constantly reinventing your processes, constantly updating your processes, constantly making things more efficient. And then also from a real leader's point of view, listening to your team, who you bring on, like, oh, this will be better for us so we can be more efficient. If they tell you something to be better, being able to relinquish your old ways for something that possibly could be better. So again, you might have been doing it this way for so long, and then somebody younger comes along who's part of the team and like, hey, this is how we should do it because it'll be more efficient, it'll look better, blah blah blah. Listening to them and be like, okay, we're gonna try it that way. So always being able to pivot and stay on a swivel as far as new processes. So you don't want to really be rigid, and you can look into business and see all the companies that were rigid that faded away because they didn't want to adapt to the new technologies and adapt to the new way of doing things, and they kind of fade away into the background. So you don't want to be rigid. You want to kind of stay updated and innovative with your processes. Have you outgrown your system or beliefs? Is it time that you upgrade it? Or on a personal level, how this Jerry Cullen would ask, how are you complicit in creating conditions you say you don't want? How are you complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? I'm gonna say that again. How are you complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? Complicit being like passive, like how don't you feel like you need to do something? Like how are you just chilling when you're creating conditions that you don't want? You're just chilling, not doing nothing in conditions that you don't want. So that's pretty much the end of that chapter. I will go ahead and get further into that last statement, right? In asking yourself, like, are you complicit? Are you currently complicit in your situation? Like, trying to find the right words, right? Trying to find the right words. And I only can use an example that I came across recently. Like I like to personally watch a lot of documentaries and things like that of people kind of talking. And I could do a lot of little like listening to people. I could self-reflect on myself. So I don't really listen to people and listen to these documentaries to judge somebody else. I do it to self-reflect on myself. So with that being said, I'm gonna just go into this story real quick. But I just currently watched this video. It was about a guy. I don't want to say what he does, but it was about a guy who was not doing the best in life. Definitely had problems with his family. Had relationships, having bad relationships with his family. Not saying this is a bad thing, but tattoos on his face and things like that. Was addicted to drugs, addicted to certain drugs or whatnot. Boom. I'm gonna just leave it there, just kind of going into his story. And I'm just interested in this story. Like, well, what does this guy got going on, and then how did he end up where he ended up? But in the interview, the guy asked him, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the guy was like, I'm gonna be a billionaire. And I was like, even though I don't want anybody to sit there and judge anybody else by anything, like, because anything can happen. Anybody can become a billionaire, and I don't down talk anybody, and everybody knows that I don't down talk anybody. But in my mind, I'm like, what are you? Just like the guy were just like he was said. What's that last one? How are you complicit in creating conditions you say you don't want? Right? How are you complicit in creating conditions you don't want? So if you want to be a billionaire, that's a condition you want, right? But you are in a condition currently that you don't want. Clearly, you don't want to be in this condition. So what are you doing now to prepare yourself to become a billionaire? Billionaires act different. They talk different. They walk different. They look different. They think different. Everything is totally different. So what are you doing to align yourself with that type of frequency, that type of mindset? What are you doing to do that? Right? And it just really made me take a look in the mirror, like, to myself, like, what am I doing to align myself? What am I doing? Am I complacent? Am I like, I've got to a certain place where I'm like, okay, this is good enough. Now I could just sit here and relax, you know? And there people, you can get to that place. There's nothing wrong with getting to that place. But again, going back to this extreme example, of course, this guy's like, I'm gonna be a billionaire. And I'm thinking in my head like, well, you have tattoos on your face, which I'm not saying that, again, tattoos on your face doesn't make you not eligible to be a billionaire, but you have tattoos on your face. You have bad relationships with your actual people, your immediate family. So you have bad relationships with your immediate family. That to me is like, was way more impactful to me than the tattoos on your face. Because tattoos on your face, you can still be a great person. People want to be around and everything else. Like, that really doesn't mean much. But again, you have to think about your audience. Like, when you walk into these places, like, how you look is important. Just like in certain circles, like what you drive, what kind of house you have, what kind of wife you have, all this stuff is important because it's all superficial. But you don't really want to get in that superficial world. But I'm just going on along the lines, right? So the guy's like, I want to be a billionaire. And even going back to the lesson, the guy was like, when you're scaling your company up, from him not being able to have a relationship with his family shows me or makes me feel, how are you going to have a relationship with your employees? How are you going to have a relationship with your team? Like, you can't even have a relationship with your family. Like, the people who you're supposed to be closest to, you don't even have a relationship with them. But there are instances in the world, like people who don't even mess with their family, they become very successful. So again, this is all with a grain of salt. So again, no backlash or anything like that. I'm just giving my own perspective. That's one thing. Like, so how are you looking at your relationships? Are you making your relationships better? Are you reinventing yourself? Are you looking at that and fixing that about yourself? Like, what are you doing to fix yourself, right? Another thing on drugs, like, okay, when you're at a certain level, even going into becoming a 100,000-aire or a millionaire, your mindset changes as far as, okay, how can I allocate funds? Currently, your funds are being tied up by your addiction to a vice. So that same money you could be using to, put foreign chemicals into your body, that same money you could be using for that, you can be using as capital to start something, start a business, start, something that gets you closer to $1 billion, right? Some type of tool, some type of process that gets you closer to $1 billion. You can be using all of that capital to get you closer to $1 billion. And again, that's even a better example because it's a mindset thing. Becoming a billionaire is not something that falls in your lap. Becoming a millionaire is not something that falls in your lap. It's a mindset thing, right? And not saying that it's important to even be this. Like, some people, like, I'll be good with being, having 200,000 and I'll be straight because that'll at least give me enough to live off of, and I'll be good. And that's perfectly fine. I'm not really trying to push like everybody should be a billionaire or millionaire or anything like that. What I'm trying to really push is there's certain things, like you say, you don't want to be complacent. There's certain things you can take yourself, look in the mirror, and look at your scars. Find out where your scars are, and your scars being not only physically, but like mentally, where are your scars at, and really addressing those scars, reinventing yourself. Just like he said, moving up to every thirds, they're reinventing their processes, reinventing themselves. So if this guy is trying to move from addicted to drugs to 1,000-aire, then to a millionaire, it's kind of like, okay, what processes are you setting up while you're addicted to drugs so you can move to 1,000-aire? Are you setting up processes, or are you complacent with where you're at and not doing anything, not remaining curious of how to get to 1,000-aire? And then once you get to 1,000-aire, then you kind of start to set up process like, okay, what processes can I set up to become go to the next level. And it doesn't even have to be money. It can be anything. What processes can I set up to now learn how to draw this way? What processes can I learn how to animate this? What processes can I learn how to do publish this to a feature film? It's parallel to so many different things in life, right? So really, I don't want to get caught up with the money, and don't want y'all to get caught up with money, the money aspect of it. But again, it's really just focusing on reinventing yourself, really being honest with yourself, looking in the mirror, being honest with yourself, like, I'm not good at this, I'm not really good at that. Like me, I'm not a great speaker. The more I get on here, the more comfortable I get, the more I realize, okay, if I do it like this, it sounds a little better. If I slow it down, it sounds a little better. If I make certain pauses at certain places, it emphasizes certain things. And learning these things and remaining curious about these things, so that, again, those little things that are uncomfortable to you, you take it to the next level. Like, what are you doing now to reinvent yourself so you can get to that next level? Then when you get to that next level, what are you doing at that point to reinvent yourself again so you can get to that next level? Just like building your team. You build from 1 to 3, from 3 to 9, from 9 to 27, or let's just say 30 to 100, 100 to 300, so on and so forth. And each time you had to reinvent your whole process. You had to reinvent where you were at from where you were currently. Oh, so I mean, I really feel I went long-winded on that, but I hope you get what I'm trying to say here. Like, we all have things that we can be better at. At the end of the day, we all have things that we can be better at. It don't have to be money-wise. We all have things we can be better at. We can be better with our relationship. We can be better at listening. We can be better at spending time. We can be better at so many different things, and really trying to address those things. And for one, own those things. Like, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. I know I'm not good at this, but what can I do to try to become better at this? You know, so again, I'm really just gonna leave that there. But at the end of the day, in the process of becoming better, it takes that one thing. It starts with that one thing. Do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals. Whatever that thing is, do that one thing. And again, it can be a mental thing. It don't even have to be an action. It could be a mental thing. Like, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna go apologize to my parent because we haven't been talking for so long. That one thing, whatever it is. Again, when I say that one thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be a task that you have to do. Like, oh, I have to run to the bank, or no, it don't have to be any of that. Like, that one thing could be, let me apologize to somebody, or let me spend time with somebody to show them that I care, or whatever. Do that one thing that takes you closer to your goals. And hey, at the end of the day, y'all have a blessed day. Later, y'all. Peace.